I have joining me via the telephone a legal practitioner, a social and political affairs commentator, and that's Barrister Eze Eluchi. Barrister Eze Eluchi, good evening and welcome.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for inviting me over.
Thank you so much, Barrister Eze Eluchi. Let's first of all start off with Peter Obi. Recently, he held a space called Parallel Facts. Parallel Facts is where they talk about the political situation in the country. They also talk about the economic situation in the country, the policies implemented and how it affects the political atmosphere. Peter Obi, we do know, is one speaker who has been very vocal with most of these policies and how it affects Nigerians. We do know his stance on some economic analysis and some statistics that he usually presents when he talks on such public fora. Well, he recently said that he's been threatened because he has been very vocal in terms of criticizing the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. One of the things he said was that he has been offered several things, which may include money or other inducements, but he said he had declined and that he would continue to talk about these issues. His interest is for a better Nigeria. Why would Peter Obi be threatened? Isn't it the place of the opposition to criticize?
Well, what Mr. Peter Obi is doing is the appropriate thing to do, to respond or to criticize government actions. But my worry is that he needs a political structure to do that. He cannot be responding to all the minuses of government because they'll be happening every day.
Okay.
Well, one would have preferred a situation whereby Mr. Peter Obi responds directly to the malfeasance or the misdeeds of Mr. Bola Tinubu directly, and then have lieutenants who will respond appropriately to that of other officials of the government. And that is the ideal thing. I mean, in other democracies, they may have what they call the shadow ministers, so that for rascal acts of ministries of health or education, you have a designated official of the opposition who will respond to such issues. And not just for Mr. B to respond to each and every one of them, because if he does that, he will not have time for himself. He will be busy every day. Because every day of the week, every day of the month, this government is committing one atrocity or the other. If it's not in health, it's in the financial sector or in the education. So, I mean, he has to be organized. That is my feeling on this issue.
All right, Barrister Eze Eluchi, another impending situation is the fact that a couple of critics believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not confident on himself and that his legitimacy is still being questioned. Others are also of the opinion that the FBI CIA document will continue to be a nightmare for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and because of that, he would do all and sundry that would require to show support with the European Union or the United States so long as those documents are not released. Also, Olisa Agbakoba, who is one of a senior advocate of Nigeria, recently said in the presence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that the Supreme Court is the worst ever. He said that in the presence of the president. And this is what a lot of Nigerians feel. This is basically how a lot of Nigerians feel. So let me ask you, Barrister Eze, is it possible that the president is still not confident in himself, even if the Supreme Court has affirmed him? And is it possible that there could be some compromise between the president or agreement between the president and the CIA or the FBI concerning the release or the public release of the president's affiliations with some, indictment, something that could actually tarnish his personality?
Well, with regards to the various FBI files and the files for the intelligence agencies on the person occupying the office of the President of Nigeria, the reality is that is what foreign intelligence agencies do. They will try their best to leverage on whatever information they have to build the leaders or officials of other countries so that they get them to do what their own foreign country wants. So in the case of the USA and the FBI, they will be they will feel very happy that they have some documents on Mr. Tinubu, with which they can now use to virtually blackmail Mr. Tinubu to do what the USA wants. And it's quite unfortunate. That is why the role the Supreme Court played in foisting Mr. Tinubu on Nigeria is most unfortunate. It was clear that we had a candidate who is adversely affected by his past. A lot of things are in Mr. Tinubu's past that can be held against him because there are facts. There are facts that he forged the certificates he presented to INEC. Another fact is that he claimed to have attended a school that was not existing when he attended the school. that's the Government College, Lagos. And the fact also that they have so many facts on Mr. Tinubu which can be used to blackmail him. So that the Supreme Court acquires to allowing itself to be used to justify the entry into office of Mr. Tinubu exposes Nigeria to a great harm, to great misdeed. And that is what we have to suffer for the entirety of Mr. Tinubu's tenure. With regards to Mr. Bakoba's comment that this Supreme Court is the worst Supreme Court ever, that also is not in doubt. Even the Chief Justice Ariwola knows that he's presiding over the most jaundiced, the very worst Supreme Court we've ever had. To even make matters worse, not recently, not too long ago, he also appointed his own brother as the auditor of the Supreme Court. How based and how jaundiced can a system be? Utterly shameless. Even if your brother is the best, must it be your brother that you make the auditor of the Supreme Court? And some will argue that his brother is very qualified and all that. That does not matter. In the eyes of everybody, can your brother actually audit what you do in the NJC or in the Supreme Court? So because the Supreme Court, without doubt, what Mr. Abakoba said is the absolute fact. And they proceed even to give judgments that amaze law students, judgments that have no relevance or that cannot even be relied upon as judgments of a Supreme Court of any country. So Mr. Abakoba was very right. And then all this, plus the fact that Mr. Tinubu emerged from a jaundiced process, only exposes us to more harm at the international sector. And definitely Mr. Tinubu will not be ruling for Nigerians. That is obvious. Before he does anything, he will likely ask the Americans or the Britons, what do you want me to do? That is the unfortunate stage we have found ourselves. And how we overcome it is left to Nigerians. But like I always say, when we say enough is enough, enough becomes enough. But for now, Nigerians are tolerating the nonsense, and we'll stay by it and see how long it lasts.
All right. Barr Eze, let's go to Rivers, because that is also one imbroglio where the president has been called into on several occasions. And that's concerning the tussle, the feud between Nyesom Wike, the political godfather, and Similai Fubara, who is the anointed godson. Nigerians did not expect that this brotherhood or this friendship or this, communal relationship between these two individuals will become fraught at this very short moment, just into 3 or 4 months into Fubara's tenure as the governor of Rivers State. Others have said that the president is being biased by not, being an intermediate into the situation. But we do know that the president had tried on, I think, one of the occasions to see how he could resolve the differences between Fubara and Nyesom Wike. Others feel that maybe there is something Nyesom Wike has up his sleeves that could possibly implicate the president in 1 or 2 situations, and that's why the president has been mute, because Wike had been, brazenly trying to create a sense of destabilization or possibly make Rivers State become a state of anarchy. Is that a strong possibility to consider?
Well, it is. I think from looking at precedents of similar experience of where some governors have tried to put their stooges as their replacements, I have realized that maybe Mr. Fubara acted a bit in a haste.
Okay. In
trying to dislodge himself from the Wike stranglehold. Why do I mean he acted in a bit of a haste? We had a previous incident of this kind of imposition where Odius Okalo imposed 2 governors in Imo and Abia State. He imposed Ike Hakim in Imo State, and then he imposed T.A. Oji in Abia State. What did these 2 other governors that were imposed do? They waited until their principal, which was Odius Okalo, helped them to overcome Supreme Court judgments, and they were now sure that they had a tenure before they now turned against their benefactor. But in the case of Mr. Fubara, he has only passed the appeal court. The matter is still going to go to this same jaundiced Supreme Court that all Nigerians and Abakoba has said is the worst ever. So Mr. Fubara appears to have acted a bit in a haste. Because now he's at the behest of Mr. Wike and the APC and the government which controls the Supreme Court. And that's what will happen. I wouldn't be surprised if against all odds, against all legalities, against due process, this Supreme Court rules that Fubara is no longer the governor of Rivers State. So if he does that, is Mr. Fubara, does he have sufficient clout in his state to oppose a jaundice judgment of the Supreme Court? If he doesn't, then it appears he might have acted in a bit of a haste. He could have stomached all the rubbish and the malfeasance of Wike a few more months, waited for the Supreme Court judgment to go through, and then display himself. Now, it is strange that I'm giving this advice online, but that is the reality. That is how low the Nigerian contraption has fallen. That is how far down the abyss we have gone. When we now have to play games with the electorate, when imposed governments have to wait until their principals have helped them to overcome the structure of the Supreme Court before they can now decide to break loose. I still refer you back to the statement by a member of the House of Reps in Plateau State, when he told those in Plateau State that, look, when we get to the Supreme Court, you will show us who you know and we'll show you who we know.
All right, Barr Eze. Okay, go ahead. Continue, please.
It is clear that Mr. Fubara has taken a very big risk by deciding to break loose from Mr. Wike before Mr. Wike assured him of a Supreme Court judgment. And now he's at the beck and call of a Supreme Court that is acknowledged to be the very worst in the country, ever in the history of the country. So I don't know how he's supposed to overcome it. But then, the saving grace is this. River State and that region controls the wealth of this country. And I know that Mr. President Bola Tinubu realizes that if there is a mess up in that region, and the people of the region go into the creeks and decide to shut down the oil production of this country, then this country is in a big mess. So perhaps, and only perhaps, the Supreme Court will be advised in its own good, for its own interest, and in the interest of even the regime of Mr. Tinubu, not to toy with the people's wishes in Rivers State.
All right, sir. For example, remember I asked you, I said a lot of people feel the president has been biased by not interfering in the debacle like he did in Ondo State, in Rivers State. But the former Minister of Work, Babatunde Fashola, has said that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's intervention is not required in the ongoing political tension in Rivers State, even that of Ondo State, even though that of Ondo State has been, put together. He said the Constitution doesn't give room for such. And when he made that statement, he reiterated that does the Constitution assign a role to the president in this matter? He asked while he was speaking concerning the Wike Fubara debacle. But a lot of Nigerians feel that the president, on several occasions, his advice had been sought on how to resolve some of these issues, even when constitutionally he ought not to be part of it. So, if in time past or even before now, he had always involved himself in clarifying issues or resolving issues, why can't he resolve the situation? Unless maybe he's leaning towards Nyesom Wike. Is there a possibility or the president is just obeying the Constitution not to get himself involved?
People like Fashola who cherry pick on constitutional issues should learn to keep quiet on these matters. The reality is this. Where were all these people talking about the Nigerian Constitution when against the spirit of the Constitution, Bola Tinubu was made president? Was he supposed to have made president? So there's nothing like Constitution. The fact is that the Nigerian Constitution has been discarded. Even in the way Nigeria is ruled, there's nothing like, it's just like any day the government wakes up, they do what they feel like. The reference to the Nigerian Constitution is just a joke. So what Mr. President has been doing by interfering, he can continue to interfere. It's easier for him to interfere in Ondo State because it is his own ethnic group. But then when he goes to Rivers State, who knows him there? What powers of interference does he even have? Can he call any of the parties to a table? The answer is no. So there's a limit to which Mr. Tinubu can interfere in such matters. And when we talk of Mr. Tinubu interfering, can he even, does he have the interfere? He's a man who, when you watch him speak in public forums, you see him, do you think he can actually have the capacity? Or is it the same thing when the chief of staff and his kitchen cabinet interfere, you now say Mr. Tinubu has interfered? I doubt Mr. Tinubu has the intellectual capacity to interfere in any issue now, because we have watched him speak at international forums where he has messed up terribly. So I don't think he has the capacity, he doesn't have the constitutional wherewithal to interfere, and if you allow the River State people to sort themselves out. And I think the reality is that things are taking shape and it will be sorted out.
Barr Eze, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to share your perspective on most of this topic.
Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing so you won't miss out any of our latest video.